Sorry, there was a small pause to look at some technical issue. Now, like I said, now, for example, let me take myself as a person. I as a person have a lot of data, like my name, I have a name, I have various identities. I have let's say, age associated, which is connected to date of birth. I have a height, I have a weight of the body, say complexion, nationality, qualifications, and my capabilities, my hobbies, all these are data about myself, right? The nativity, where do I belong from? All these are data about, and a lot more. This is data about myself. But based on what activity or what operation or where I stand, some set of data is collected. For example, if I go to a doctor with a health reason, there is some set of data among all the data that I have is collected or restored there. It will be starting with my name and my age, like then my health history, my statuses, my vital status. These information would be needed. May not need my bank account statement, or there may be a lot of other data. So again, if I join as an employee in an organization, there is some set of data that is collected about me, okay, which is recorded in their organization. If I join as a student in some institution, there is a set of data. Among all these data which is there, there is a group of data which, again, data items, I would clearly say, would be collected or would be needed. So based on the need, the data is actually planned, what data is needed for these for this activity or for this problem to solve. Okay, and how this needs to be organized, that all depends on what all I use this data, what all information. Yes,
ma'am, you will be getting an option like downside. You can see you are getting the option of share the screen.
No, I don't.
Ma'am, like we have given the access from our sides, like of the co-host. So
No, I'm not seeing this option.
ma'am, are you getting the option?
No, ma'am, I'm not getting the option. I can only see recording, reactions, participant security, and chat in the main options. I did not get the share screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me continue. Yeah, so again coming back, sorry for the break. So now, if you look at it, for example, let's just look at it in manual operation first. What we actually do in automation is whatever we did manually, we try to implement that using in our computers. That's all, right? So first, let's just analyze what we would do this manually. For example, if I say when we were doing banking operations, for example. So good old days, everything, all the information about the account holders in the bank was organized in books, in registers or books, whatever you call it, right? So what is the first step we do? We actually plan out in each register what data should be stored about an account holder. Okay, so there will be a register which will have the account holders account number, which would be unique, we know. Then the name details of the person. Maybe we could organize it as first name, middle name, last name, or just the name. It depends on how we operate, right? Then the start of the account, when you open the account, date, all these information. Apart from that, how much is deposited, and every time there is a transaction, the data is updated. This is how we would do. But the first step is about planning out
Hey Manjula, this is Pramit. Am I audible? Hello? Manjula, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Awesome. So I understand, I just joined. Screen is not... so Manjula, at the bottom of the page, right, there is a share screen option. Have you joined from a laptop, Manjula? Let me see if I can help you sharing the screen.
Hello?
Yeah, Manjula. Am I audible?
Yes, Pramit. Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to help you share your screen. At the bottom of the screen, do you see a screen icon?
Oh, yeah, it's come now. Yes, it's come.
Yeah, just click on that. And
Okay. Screen. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, we can see your screen, Manjula. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Pramit.
Yeah, I'll leave now. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Pramit. Yeah. And sorry about that small technical glitches we had, but very honestly, welcome to the IT industry. I'm sure while we all are working from home, we've faced internet issues, and it's all part of the game. So let me continue. So I was talking about how we first plan out the data, right? So first we plan out what do we need exactly, what data do we need to collect, and how do we organize it based on the requirement, and how do we again decide how to organize the data, right? So this also we again first come up with what operations do we do, and what are the problems we are going to solve, what are the problems that's going to come, because ultimately anything that we do is to give some solutions, and solutions come with when there is a problem. So and these we can also term it as operations, right? So what operations and how often we do, and what are the priorities, based on this we plan out how to structure this data and how to really store this data? In what manner do we store the data so that I can effectively manage the data? That will be the right term. How do we effectively do data management and get the information at the earliest and accurately whenever we need for our operations that we are doing on, whatever operations we are working, correct? This is what we do in day-to-day life, correct? I'm not sure how many of you really, because I know we all live in a digital world. We have a mobile phones, where we can store all the data we need. But way back in my young days, like I told you, I'm working from almost 20 years. So when the digital world was less, for example, to store the phone numbers and addresses of all my known people, we maintained a diary in which I write down everything. And there was these diaries which came with the alphabetical order. I mean, you could actually open the page based on alphabet. So in each alphabet, the set of pages which it offers you, under that I write down those alphabet names and their contact details. That is one example, right? This is because this is something that I assess generally, and I can quickly search for an information from this diary using just, I know if I have to search for Mr. Pramit's number, I just go to the P section and then the search narrows down, right? So this is different ways we have found to organize data in our real life, okay, to actually apply the operations, to make our operations faster, how we structured the data, and then how we operate on that data. And this is what is your data structures and algorithms about. Okay, so first, what is data structure? It is like how you organize and store data in your memory. In real life, it is, if you look at it, simple example, let me give you. When you write this data, when you noted down this data in your manual life, you had different types of medias. If you look at it, it is like you had a notebook, okay? Then you also had data stored in files. If you actually look at good old days, we had data kept in files. Now, both are ways of saving data, if you see, but both has its own advantages and disadvantages. When it comes to, let's say, if I take a notebook or a register, we know it is fixed. The size and the each page has a fixed size and fixed method. If I go and ask for a ruled notebook with 100 pages, you're getting a ruled notebook, all pages with the same dimensions, which has the same capacity to store data, and the total size, how many pages you can really write, that is fixed there. Correct? So if you kind of know there is, how do you again decide on this factor? You actually look at how much data is going to come. If you have a idea about this, you decide, okay, I'll take a 200 pages register with this length and I'll start storing data on this. Right? Another format we had was the files. The files, what was the flexibility we had? We actually write it on pages and just keep adding. And anytime we feel something is not needed anymore, we can even remove it from that. So it gave you that flexibility. So if it is a data where you really do not know what exactly could be the size, because if I take 200 pages notebook and I fill only 10 pages, rest of the 190 pages is still going to be fixed in that page, that notebook only. That was a limitation, right? But if you're sure, you go for a notebook, because notebook also has its own advantageous. It is fixed. The sizes are same. You don't have to all the time add papers. They are tightly bound. There are so many advantages with that. I'm not saying this is good or this is bad. It is about based on your need, your requirement, what you decide upon. Correct? So that is about how you organize the data in memory. Okay, that is your data structures. So the factors about what data needs to be collected and how this data has to be organized in the memory, these information and these decisions also you take based on the operations that you're going to do on the data, on this data, all the problems that you're going to solve using this data. You can put it even that way. Yes?
Ma'am, your slides are not visible. Actually, it's frozen. So it's in the first one itself.
I'm not moving yet. I'm still on.
Okay,
Trying to give the introduction. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Anaya. So, So this decision when this way of organizing the data, the structure of the data and the way this has to be organized in the memory is dealing with data structures. Right? Now, there's another thing we hear very common in our computer world, algorithms. What exactly is algorithm? Algorithm is nothing but actually the approach in which you solve a problem, the technique or the method you use to solve a problem or do an operation. You can call it both the way, to do an operation, or you look at it as if you look at it as a problem, how you solve the problem. Right? So to give you a good example of what an algorithm is, let us take an example of traveling from your home to office, which we all do anyways. Okay, assume you're driving or you're on your own to your office. Now, to reach your office, there may be, let's assume there are 4 routes or 5 routes. Correct? There may be, and these routes may have its own properties like distance. Okay, each route may cover a different distance, and another factor could be the time, how much it takes to traverse through each route, which may again be based on various factors. Like when during a peak traffic time, maybe the shortest route that you have may take longer time because of heavy traffic. So what do? We generally take a diversion. Though it is a little long, I can save time. I can reach office early. That is my priority. So I take a probably longer route, which will let me go faster. Right? Another way would be, and another scenario would be, petrol rates are really hiked. And for me, time is not a priority now. But my fuel charges hits on my budget. So let me take the short route, even if it takes a little long time. Correct? So I may go for the short route. So if you see, there are various approaches to solve your problem of traveling from your office to your home to office. But based on your requirement and your priorities of solving this problem, you actually decide on which approach. And these various approaches that you have are actually called the algorithms to solve the problem, the steps needed. Like I would say the algorithm in this case would be the route map. So I will just say step by step, first go straight, like how your Google map guides you. Go straight 100 meters, then take a left, go 10 meters, then you come across a circle, and then take a right from there. These would be your steps to solve this problem. And what would happen even if one step goes wrong? It's not just about telling the steps. It's also about in what order you tell the steps. So if your order changes, first if it is left turn and then right turn, but if you just say first turn right and then turn left, it may take you to a different destination. It won't solve your problem. So this set of steps and the order in which it should be organized, that is called the algorithm of solving different problems. So data structures and these algorithms basically deals with some standard ways of managing data, organizing data, and some techniques to do the common operations on these data structures. Okay. Clear so far? So just to look at some of the definitions, a data structure is a particular way of organizing data in a computer so that it can be used effectively. Okay, so same thing what you do manually, like I was describing. Again, the same you have to implement when you are even organizing the same thing on the computer. Because ultimately, computer is also, a program is also nothing but a set of instructions which is being processed. Okay, so data structures are structures programmed to store ordered data so that operations can be performed effectively. Similar definition. So it also says about the knowledge of data to be organized in the memory. So that is very important. Actually. That's the first step. Okay, the first step we do is to first get complete knowledge of your data, in the sense, for what am I collecting data? Now I have a lot of data. Do I need all the data about myself when I become an employee? No. When I become a patient, it's a different set of data. All are representing me. Both the objects are representing me. But the operations are different for both. So the requirements are different. So it's very important to, you can say it again is a knowledge representation of the data. So, and how effectively you design and implement this data structure. I agree, one is the algorithm, the way you use the, the approach you implement to solve a problem, that is there. But again, this is working on some data. So how effectively, based on the knowledge of the data, what operations you have to decide on, how effectively you can arrange this data so that all your operations go seamless, and your system ultimately is the most important jargon, robust. Okay, with how quickly you can get the information, how effectively you can get information, how easy it is to scale the system. All these depends initially on how you arrange the data and your knowledge of data. So it's very important to understand this as your primary step when you first decide to develop a system as developers. Okay. So you commonly hear of two things when you talk about data in technical world. One is the data object. So it represents an object having a data. Like, for example, I'm an object of, let's say if I am an employee of a company, the data structure could be employee should have these data. That is the blueprint, I would say. But what is an object? I myself represent an employee. So there is information about me, Manjula, with say date of birth, XXX, and address where she resides. All these information is there. Okay, gender, female. So this complete information about myself is nothing but a data object. And another thing is, first is about each person, or not just person, about each entity. When you actually have the real instance of something, there is a data about each object. Next is the data type. What type of data you store? In the sense, should this data, I mean, this particular data be, is it just numeric type? Then, or we may have a, when I say date of birth, that is a combination of numbers and maybe a character, or however it is represented internally. So that for a user may look like date type. Then you have character type, or it's nowadays it's more called a string type of data, like our name, address. All these hold character or number or anything which it can hold. But when you talk about, let's say, my height or my weight or my age, these are numbers. My salary, probably if I'm an employee, or the bill value, all these are number values, right? Numeric values. So this, what type of data do you have? And in a data object, what all data you collect? These two are the main things, again, next level when we start deciding about organizing a data. Right? Next, we deal with something called as data structure classification. So based on what your data structure is, it is classified again based on how your data is organized. Okay, let's see what are they. What are the classifications? First is we have is the linear way. You have the array, the data stored in a linear format. That is in one queue or one line or in one row, I hold all the data. Okay. These are technical terms. I can go into it. In most languages, we call it arrays. Like array is an example of a linear data structure, because if all the data in a array is held in a linear row, okay, it's like a complete row with similar kind of data in each element. If you are storing, let's say, my names or employees list, it's all in one row. You have first employee, second employee, third employee. Okay, that's how it would be structured in a linear structure array. In a linear structure data structure. Next is the non-linear structure. So these are not stored in a what do you call it, sequential manner. It's not sequential. It could be, but there is again a way to understand how it is stored. Simple example I can say is, we all would have seen textbooks as students. Yeah, in textbooks we have our chapters, etc. We have an index page, and some books will have two index pages. One could be in the starting, which is chapter wise. There can be another index in certain books which will be at the end, which says some glossaries or word wise, and which will give you, if you want to know about this topic, if you want to learn about, let's say, networking, okay, there may be a keyword called networks, and beside that it may say which page or pages, list of pages you can find this topic related information. Well, in the beginning you may see, so if you see, you cannot really say it is kept sequentially here. There is a different way, but you have your own way of going and searching the data in it. Another classification is homogeneous, wherein, now when I'm saying data structure, it's nothing but a list of data, isn't it? So in a homogeneous data structure, all the elements have same type of data. If I'm storing, let's say, employee information, every element has the same structure of data. It is exactly same. Or if I'm just storing a list of month, I'm just having a month list. So I just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10. It's just a number. So all the elements have same type of data. And that is called a homogeneous data structure. Non-homogeneous is when you have a data structure in which the data types could be different. Okay, an example is the C structures. Like if I'm creating a data type of employee type, there may be a employee code, which may be a string type, name, which may be a string type, age, which could be integer type or number type, I would say. Let's say a number of years of experience, maybe again, number type, right? Date of joining will be a date type. So it's not homogeneous. All the data are different types. This type of a structure is called a non-homogeneous. This can be even again, can work even on lists. Okay, we can see that during the detailed data structure sessions. Okay, how we can still have in a list different non-homogeneous data types, right? So then we have static and dynamic. Now, what are static and dynamic? Like its word itself represents, static is something which is already fixed, which is there. So in a static data structure, the memory type, size, and location, everything is fixed. So at the when the program compiles, the compiler itself knows, like, this data structure is going to occupy so much space, it's going to have so many elements, and this is the data type it is going to hold. So for example, again, your arrays, like if I buy a notebook, I very well know this, when I say a singular notebook with 100 pages, if I go and order, I very well know they have 100 pages, it is fixed, and the dimension of this, when I say long notebook, short notebook, there may be a particular dimension. Dimension of each page would be some, say, 10 centimeter into 15 centimeter, whatever it is, okay, or 10 into 10, whatever you want to call it. All these are fixed. So I know this notebook, when I buy itself, when I'm going to place in my office, I need so much space, it is fixed. And it can hold so much data that is fixed. That is why it is called static. Dynamic are the data structures which can resize itself when the program is running. So if the compiler does not know this particular data, how much it is going to exactly store. It depends. So every time I run the program, simple example, in a mall when we enter, let's say, or nowadays, especially in the pandemic time, all our details may be noted, right? So, but this key, now one person is going in, the person may go out. We're not sure what is the size, what exactly is, how many are going to come and how many are going to leave at what time when the program is under execution. Most of the places is what happens, but certain data we know very well, like we know students in a class, if they have given the limit as 30 students in a class, then it is going to be only 30, come what may, right? So again, these all decisions are taken based on, again, your requirement, your problem, and the operations that you do on the problem, on the requirement. So when we talk about data structures, there are various operations that we all handle. Right? Very common. This is what, again, we do in real life. So obviously, this is what we are going to automate as well. Right? What is automation ultimately? Whatever we did in our real life is being computerized, is automated, is programmed, and the operations are made much more faster than manual. That's it. So So these operations are what is done manually. We are going to see that how we'll do it very effectively using data structures. So what are the common operations? Traversing through a data structure. This is basic thing. You for sure, you do any operation, you have to traverse. What is traversing? I mean, scanning through. We call that scanning also. Like you have a textbook, you go page wise, right? You to go to even a topic. Okay, you may have various ways of traversing. That is different. But basic operation is traversing through an operation, through a data structure. When you, whether you want to search, whether you want to add some data to it, whether you want to remove some data from the list, from the entire data structure, whatever you do, you have to traverse through the data structure. Searching. Let's look at all these in detail. Searching, we know very well, we all search through. Search is a very common operation. All of us talk about Google. The search, I think, is Google has become the verb for searching now. Okay, so there is, I don't think there is a day when we will live without searching. We always search for anything, right? So again, how based on how we organize and how we what techniques we use to search, that is what we will be learning in these data structure algorithms. Okay. And other things what we do, obviously, when there's a new employee who is joining, we got to add an employee, which is nothing but your insertion operation. Depending on how your data structure again is organized, you'll have to decide how the insertion should happen. Deletion, again, we know, is removal of data from the data structure. Then we may have to sort the data if required. Sorting is nothing but organizing the data or arranging the data in a order, right? Any order. It could be ascending, descending on based on any of the required columns. Merging. You have two data structures or two sets of data. You may want to join them together and make it into one book, right? That is merging operation. Let's see a little more details. There are many data structures we will be looking at in tomorrow's class. We'll be looking at majorly in detail two of the most commonly used data structure, which becomes a foundation of your data structure. And one popular data structure is the array data structure. So array is nothing but a data structure which can hold fixed size of a collection of data in a sequential order. Okay, which can hold a fixed number of items, and these items should be of same type. Okay, so it's the same type of data, a fixed number of a collection of data stored in a sequential order. That is what is an array. And to give you a real life example, like I said, the fixed notebooks are like an array. That is the real life example I can give. Okay, so there are two things associated with an array. One is the element in which the actual data is stored. Every element will have the data. So if you're storing a list of names in which each element may be a string type or a character array, we can call it. So each element will be having a collection of characters, right? That is called element. And index is nothing but, like, simple example, when we are sitting in the classrooms, how are we indexed? How are we pointed? The person sitting in the 5th row, please raise your hands. Person sitting in the second column of the 5th row, right? Or second, what do you call? Right, that is another way. Or you go to a theater, there is a seat number given to you. So you look at which row and which seat in that row, right? So that is your way of indexing, correct? The seat to find out in this complete theater, which I can say is a two-dimensional array, because each seat, every seat is same here, and it is fixed in theater. Okay, it's a fixed size, whether so many people, viewers, audience come or not, it is fixed. And how are they indexed? They, on your ticket, they give you the row number and the column number, or the seat number, whatever you want to call it, right? So with these two information, you go and exactly find out which is your location for you to sit, which is your memory location to place your data there, to convert it into the computer language, right? That is called indexing. So these are the two important terms which you'll find with arrays. Okay. Now, this is the most popular data structure, because it's actually, in a way, if you see, even in real world, we mostly see this. This is what it is. This is what we use. We go to, whether we go to buses, trains, we are given a seat number, we know how to easily locate it, right? So if you see, because this indexing concept and the element concept is there, and you know all the data types are same, your actual search is very fast, much easier, right? Okay, that is why if you actually look at arrays is the most popular data structure internally used. Okay, so C language, most of us know. So just an example on how a array is created in C language, an integer array. Okay, we just say int array, give the size of the array, and initialize values with it. This is, I'm sorry, there's a mistake. It should be 3, I gave 30. Okay, then data types in C that we have. This I don't want to go into detail right now. This will be referring in tomorrow's class. So like I said, operations. The most popular operation is the traverse operation. So this is to traverse throughout any data structure. It could be array, or it could be, there are other data structures like linked list, binary tree, hash table, graphs, various notations. Okay, any data structure, you have to traverse. And this traverse operation deals with how you traverse through a data structure. Okay, so the program to traverse and print elements, anything. It could be just listing out the data. It could be even to search for a data, or if you want to remove a data, you want to update some data, you want to insert some data. In anything, you have to traverse through it. So this is the basic operation that you will perform for sure on any data structure. Okay, various techniques to traverse we'll be looking at in the preceding next sessions. It could, like I said, it could be for listing the values of an element, for search operation, for sort operation. You will also, sorting is again arranging it in a one organized in what do you call it? In an ordered format. Okay, ordering the data. Next is insertion operation. Again, this is obviously needed. So whenever you want to add data into your data structure, add an element to your data structure, then you use this insertion operation. Again, based on how your data structure is organized, what data structure you choose to use, the standards that is offered to you. Based on that, there are various logics or various approaches to insert data into a data structure. And that is what, that algorithm is what deals with in the insertion operation. Next important operation, very important, very commonly used, of course, is search operation. Because ultimately, once data is organized and arranged and saved, you use it for information, seeking information. So when you seek information, mainly what you do is the search operation. So we all use books to read. So if you want to search for a topic, you go search within the book, right? You go to, and nowadays, of course, it's a digital world. We need anything, we go search in Wikipedia, we search in Google, right? So again, there are different techniques of doing search. Yeah, to give you an example, I'm sure all of us would have used a dictionary. I know there is digital dictionary, but think of a situation of using a manual dictionary. Correct? We know for sure, I mean, if I know that there is about, this dictionary has around, let's say, 200 pages, and I want to search for some word starting with, let's say, give me a word. Performed, I find this word, or position. I want to just look for some synonyms for position. What do? I know P approximately where it could come. Correct? Will I go page wise, 200 pages, go each page and read everything? That would have been too tedious and a waste of time. We just use some common sense. What we do is we just go midway, and then from there we know if suppose I just randomly open some set of pages and I find myself somewhere, let's say in say R. Okay, I came in R. Now I know P comes before R, PQRS, yeah. So before R. So then I can eliminate the search on the right side, the pages on the right side. I'll go to the left. Again, randomly pick out few more pages. And then again from there, I decide whether to go right, left, and I come faster to the search, isn't it? Okay, then once I get to some PO pages starting with PO, then again I have a POS and slowly filter out and make my search faster. Correct? If it is not organized, you have no choice but go through each page. If you're given a random set of answer sheets, your teacher gives you, she did not organize, she just gave you all the answer sheets and tells you, find out roll number 501, what did he score? And this is not now sorted or organized. You have no choice but open each answer paper and look at the roll number. And once you hit the roll number, you stop the search and you give the answer to your teacher. So what I'm trying to say is various techniques we use in our real life for sorting, so for searching, sorry. And the same thing, we'll look at how we implement them through algorithms. That is what our algorithm deals with. Okay. I'm not going through this right now. This is a simple search algorithm in C. We'll look at it in detail tomorrow. Another, again, important operation is the deletion operation. This, of course, will happen, is one of the needed operation. We know very well. So when an employee leaves the organization, you may not want to maintain the data of the person in the same register. Maybe you'll move it to, you'll still maintain, but you may move it to a different register, because if I keep saving all in one list, always, and active employees is what I do more real operation, then I may just want to remove that and add it. So if you see here, there's a deletion and insertion operation going simultaneously. So again, this also you have to first make a decision as to how you want to do the removal. Okay, and based on that, you apply the technique on it to do this operation. Okay, update, changes are inevitable, we know very well. Okay, always there'll be a change. Our designations change, our say department could change, our salaries could change, right? Our addresses could change, our branch could change. I'm talking about employee data structure. So whenever there's changes, I need to update that in my database or wherever I store the data. So this again, there are different So obviously an update, if you see it needs traversing, it needs searching, because you need to traverse through the data structure to search for the right element in which you want to perform the update operation. And then you have to update and probably even display finally after the changes are made. Right? So many operations, again, sub operations you may have to do on one operation. Like I said, there are two popular data structures, most popular. Apart from this, there are many more and very effective data structures. The most commonly used and basic data structures are arrays and linked list. And to tell you the main difference between an array and linked list, again, I use my favorite example, notebook and files. Your array is like a notebook where your size is fixed, your type of data in every element is fixed, right? And in a linked list is like a file where you can add pages, you can remove pages when you don't need, and you can probably even have different sizes of pages, different, like here, if I say roll notebook, all the data elements are same. In a linked list, it may be same. You may have fixed that your data should have, you may have printouts which says this is what is the format you use. Then it is a fixed data element. But at the same time, you may also have a file in which your data types may be different in each page. I'm just trying to give you an example. Okay. So that is a little bit of a flexibility with a linked list. Okay. How they are stored, again, these are dynamic. So whenever you need, the element is added dynamically and removed dynamically from the memory. And how they are, why they are called linked lists, there is a link between the elements. They're not going to be like sequentially fixed. It's not a fixed size. So every time you need to add a data element to the structure, you add one data element dynamically. But when you're dynamically adding, it is not sequentially stored. Then how do they know? How do you come to know the connection of data, that all these are my related data? There is something called as link, okay, between these data elements. So there is a linked list will have at least one what do you call pointer or an data member which will store the address of the next element. Okay, usually the term used is next for that. Okay. Again, this connection, how they are linked, there are again various ways. Okay, when it comes to a doubly linked list, circular linked list, singly linked list, this link, how it is created, there are various ways. But there is a link which is maintained between these elements. Every time it is added, there's a link created. It will be like a chain. Okay. Just a picture notation of a linked list, which will have first your engine type. It's like a train with bogies, an engine and bogies, if you see. They're all linked. Okay. And the last node usually will be pointing to nothing. So that's how I'll know this is the last node. And the first node will have a reference variable which will point to the first node. And rest all are linked to each other. Okay. And this is for this picture actually notates a singly linked list. Again, you have various types of linked lists, which we'll look at in the next sessions. Okay, so the points to consider, like we had an element and the index in linked list, sorry, in an array. In linked list, we'll have a link element, first linked element called first or head, which points to the first, which holds or which leads with the first element that is created, right? And each link, each data element carries the link to the next data element. using a next link, that is the standard terminology used. Okay. Last link carries a link as null. Again, this depends on what type of linked list. Okay, but there is a way to find out which is your first element and last element and how they are connected. Okay, that depending on which type of linked list the technique is used. Okay, so there are, like I said, there are different types of linked list. One, simple, or it is also called singly linked list. Various books refer to various terminologies. This is, you call it a forward only data structure. It can move only, it can traverse only in one direction. Next, you have a doubly linked list, which is connected, which is linked from both the directions. So it will store each element will point to the next element as well as previous element. That is why they're called doubly. The advantage of this is it can move in both the directions, forward as well as backward. Okay. Circular linked list, like its name suggests, it will be circular. Like other two are stored in one row, one line. This would be stored in a circular. So the first element and the last element will be pointing to each other. It will be completely in a closed circle. Okay. Again, same operations you have even with linked list. We'll be looking at in detail how we do these operations in a linked list. How we do an insertion, how we do a deletion, how we display the linked list, how to search for an element within a linked list, and how to delete an element from a linked list. This is the logics we'll be looking at in detail in the next session. I'll try to wind up in another 5 minutes. I know I've slightly crossed the time limit. Okay, like I said, I explained about what an algorithm is initially. So to brief up, algorithm is a finite set of instructions or logic written in order to accomplish a certain predefined task. It is like the approach to solve a problem. Okay, the problem could be searching for some data. Problem could be when I want to add some data into my data structure or deleting some data. All these are looked at as a problem. So the different problem solving techniques that we use based on certain factors is called the algorithm. Okay. So when you talk about algorithm, it is not the programming code that you write. Algorithm as such will be nothing but a pseudocode, or just, it could just be step by step. Even in English you can write, or some people represent it through a flow chart. The flow of how you do. Simple example, if you're writing, if you're going to tell your friend how to come from the office to my home, if I'm supposed to tell you this, I can either draw it and tell you follow this instructions, or I may just tell you step by step, first take this so many meters, this, and you're following step by step. Yeah, so it's just that set of instructions in a, and usually we call it pseudocode. We just write it in a universal language as to how to approach. You implemented it using any language, doesn't matter. You write it in C, C++, Java, C#, Python, that doesn't matter. Language is just a medium, but algorithm is the approach, the way, the path to do an action or to solve a problem. How do you measure the performance of an algorithm? There are two things mainly. One is the time complexity, or the speed at which you get the problem solved. And second is the space complexity. That is how much space it takes to to organize your data and solve your requirements or do the operations. Okay, these are two things. Like in anything, if you see these two, space and time, even if you're planning to buy a home, these are the two major factors you look at, right? Where is it placed? Where is your house placed? And how much space is there? And if you organize your things properly, search becomes faster, right? So these, how you make it effectively, it depends on these two complexities, time and space. Like if you take your, like I gave you the driving example, instead of space, I can look at it as the fuel there, right? How much fuel it takes and how much time. So what is more, what is more priority for you? Based on that, you take the choose the approach. Okay, what is effective for you? It's measurements. It need not be just on one factor. That if it is fast, it is the best. It need not be like that. It depends on what you are capable of and what you need also. If your budget has a limit and if you're traveling 10 times a day, then you may choose a mix of both or any one of it, right? That. Yes, there are certain search techniques. I'm not going through in detail. Okay, one is a linear search, like I gave you the roll number example, where your data is not organized. You just go sequentially, element by element, and search. That is a linear search. Then you have binary search. Binary search typically is the example that I gave you in how you search in the dictionary, how you divide the page and you just decide whether to go to the left side or right side. Exactly that technique is used in binary search. Okay, but in binary search, the mandate is it should be sorted. The data should be sorted. If your data is not sorted, you'll have to go through other search techniques. Okay, apart from that, there are many more search techniques, and the most common, popular search techniques only I have listed here as of now. I'm not going through these in detail. Okay. Similarly, you have another important thing about arranging data is sorting, how you arrange the data in an ordered manner. That is sorting of a data structure. Again, there are various techniques used to sort a data. Again, the data is sorted in a numerical order or according to the alphabets. That is different. In ascending, descending, these are the various ways to arrange the data in an ordered way. But the techniques used to reorder the data is what deals with sorting algorithms. Okay. Again, the most famous one is bubble sort, but I'll not go through the detail again in this session. This will be in the next session. So that was a brief about what a data structure is, the importance of data structure, and what exactly data structure deals with. In the next session tomorrow, we'll be looking at more detailed technical aspects of how we do these techniques on two of the data structures, mainly the most famous two data structures, the arrays and linked list in tomorrow's session. We'll be looking at all these implementation, I would say. Today was a briefing on what it is, the importance of it, and how the algorithms are taken decision upon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a great session. And
Thanks,
thank you
Anaya.
so much for sharing your valuable knowledge with us. And I really want to thank our audience also. So, guys, we have planned a great workshop for you all. And if you register today, like by midnight, if you will register with the help of the coupon, you will get 100 rupees off. So, we have shared the coupon code in the chat box. You can get the access from there. So, guys, this is the right time to learn all the important algorithms and crack your dream job by having full understanding of data structure. And I believe this session and the workshop is going to be awesome because we have the best mentor here. And I want to let you know about the topics that will be covered are the arrays, linked list, sorts, and data structure, programming and algorithm, significance of data structure arrays, and all array implementation, sorting an array, bubble sort, linked list, advantages of linked list over array, types of linked list will be explained, and data structure stack. So guys, do register now, and so you're going to get the benefit. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you and thanks team. And I'm sorry about the small spillover on time, but I hope all of you and good luck to all of you. See you all soon.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Guys, first of all,